Hello, you two children. Hope you're enjoying the sunny weather. I'm sat outside and I'm going to keep on reading the Nothing to See Here Hotel. Do you remember where Prince Grobber was making for and Frankie was chasing him? Out into the garden, wasn't it? Now we're up to chapter 24 that says, "Where is Grobber?" I raced towards the kitchen. Why hadn't I thought of it before? If the prince made it to the garden, he'd escape back through the boulder he'd arrived in and get away with everything. The kitchen was just as chaotic as the rest of the hotel. "Take that and this!" The Molar sisters were clutching their wands and had conjured up a tornado of plates and cups in the middle of the room. Cutlery and all kinds of jars, pans, utensils whizzed past, bouncing off the cupboards and shelves and pelting the royal sorcerers. The ancient goblin wizards chanted spells and threw their smoke pellets, but they didn't stand a chance against the tooth fairy triplets. "You call that magic?" Dentina laughed over the tornado. "Ha!" Gingiva laughed. "Nonsense! Your beard looked marvellous in the wind, though," Flora added, grinning. I ran to the kitchen and barged straight past the royal sorcerers, knocking them stumbling across the room. There's Frankie, running. "Stop!" a wheezy voice croaked. I turned just in time to see a grizzled goblin wizard in his biscuit tin-sized wheelchair careering towards me. "I'll get you, you snotling!" "Oh, stop your madness!" The Molar sisters laughed. They flicked their wands, and I flew into the air just as the old grunion sped underneath me and clattered down the steps to Oof's basement. "Where to, Tweety?" they cackled, dancing about in their magical storm. "The garden," I hollered. "Fast as you can." The Molar sisters swatted their wands in my direction, and the tornado of crockery suddenly wrapped itself round me. Fast as a rocket, I flew straight through the door to the conservatory and hurtled above the rows of Mr Crocom's flowers, ferns, and huge mushrooms in plant pots. Below me, running this way and that, I saw a tempestuous pirate crew beating back a gaggle of goblin guards. Most of them had lost their weapons by now and were just hurling gardening tools at each other, but I was pleased to see that it looked like the pirates were winning. I reached the far end just in time to see Reginald blink throw a potted cactus at a small running figure dressed in gold, darting through the door to the garden. It was Grobber. I'd nearly caught up with him. As the tornado of crockery, with me in the middle of it, whizzed out through the end of the conservatory, the Molar sisters' spell instantly vanished, and I skidded onto the mound at the centre of the lawn, with plates and cups smashing all around me. "Ugh!" The lawn woke up for the second time in 24 hours. "Sorry," I huffed. I felt like I'd just been put through a long spin in a tumble dryer. I dizzily stood up and looked about. There was no way I was going to let the prince escape. "You're standing on my face! Get off!" the lawn grumbled. I wobbled down the mound and headed for the bare patch of mud with the boulder jutting out of it. Please let the door still be closed. Please let the door still be closed. Phew, it was. Prince Grobber may have made it as far as the garden, but he hadn't got through into the golden hallway yet, and if I stayed near the boulder, he wouldn't be able to open the door without dealing with me first. I squinted my eyes and peered into the towering flower bed, searching for a pumpkin-sized figure. It was at times like this that I loved having troll blood in my veins. Seeing in the dark was a piece of cake, except the brilliant, glowing petals and leaves that burst out in all directions only made the shadows between them seem even darker. I couldn't spot the prince, but I knew he'd probably spotted me. I needed to be ready. Grrr! I spun round and gasped. Up on the patio, I saw Hoggett struggling and thrashing about as two of Grobber's royal guards had lashed ropes round the little dragon's snout and were pulling him towards the swimming pool. "No!" I'm sure you've probably guessed by now, but soot dragons die if they get wet. I didn't have a choice. Abandoning my post at the boulder door, I sprinted across the garden and leapt up the patio steps. I don't think I'd ever been so angry in my life. I could feel Granny Regurgita's troll rage bubbling up inside my belly. "Get away from him!" I bellowed. "That's my dragon!" I grabbed the two soldiers by the red top knots and yanked them off the ground. They dropped the ropes and started kicking their stumpy legs. just like that. "Let go!" they squealed. "Let go! Up here, darling!" Mrs. Dunch shouted. She was clambering up the steps of the water slide. "Throw 'em!" One after another, I swung the goblins into the air. Aye! They arced up over the pool, and Beryl Dunch battered them with her fishtail with a loud, wet slap. I couldn't help feeling a bit sorry for the goblin guards when they both landed head first in the manure pile by the potting shed. But that's what you get for messing with Frankie Bannister. Ha ha! And that was the moment everything went really crazy. Chapter 25. Grunched. Brace yourself. We've arrived at the big climatic ending of the story. Ready? You sure? Okay, here we go. I pulled the ropes off Hoggett's snout and bent down to pick him up. The poor little thing was trembling with fear and whimpering quietly. "It's okay, buddy," I said, stroking his scaly head. "You're safe now." Bundling him under my arm, I stood to see Grogber making a run for it across the lawn. "You'll never get me, you randacious peasant!" As if the magic door had sensed Grogber was getting close, they began to creak open. "You actually thought a squivelling scrunt like you could defeat a hunksome prince like me?" The door opened further. In a few seconds it would be too late. I was about to jump over the patio wall and try my luck at catching up with Grogber when I noticed Hoggett was getting really hot underneath my arm. I looked down and I saw a fierce glow coming from between his lumpy scales. My little pet began to vibrate and a rumbling sound echoed out through his open mouth. Then, for the first time ever, Hoggett let rip the most tremendous spray of fire I'd ever seen. It exploded through the air and engulfed the boulder. There's Hoggett, his first fire display. Grogber screamed and reeled backwards. "What's going on?" Mum cried, running out to the conservatory. "Hoggett!" Dad yelled as he joined her. I couldn't turn round with Hoggett shooting fire through the air, but I could hear the sounds of the hotel guests and the pirate crew assembling behind me. "Look at him go!" Calamitous shouted. "Stupendous!" "Keep Hoggett aimed in the right direction, Frankie," Mum told me. "Melt that boulder," said Dad. I could feel he was practically hopping with excitement. The night air began to fill with a sour burning smell as the boulder started to glow yellow and then purple and finally white. "It's gonna blow," the Molar sisters wailed together. "Fiddle it good and proper, Frankie." Grogber was frozen to the spot with a look of terror on his face. He watched as great globs of molten rock started pouring down the sides of his escape route and splashing on the scorched earth. "Hath anybody got any marshmallows?" Molar sisters continued as blop, bloop, 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 blop. A huge gurgling sound erupted from beneath the boulder and it sank into the ground, oozing back the way it had come in a tremendous lava flow. There was silence for a moment until all eyes turned slowly to Grogber. The toady little sneak had his mouth hanging open like he was trying to catch flies. Then he glanced up and saw the patio was crowded with guests and goblin pirates, and he jolted back to his senses. "Aye, aye!" Grogber glared at me. He looked like he was about to be sick with rage. "I hate you! I hate all dirtish, putrid, puffy-faced, spine-jangled, weakly, commonest, mucksome, stupid humans. But I especially hate you." One of the goblin guards that Mrs. Dunch had whacked across the garden had dropped his sword as he flew through the air. It was sticking up out of the edge of the flower bed, and Grogber made a lunge for it. "I'm going to poke holes in you and your manxome little dragon and use you as a tea strainer," the prince screamed at me. Looking even more angry there. "Not so fast!" Calamitous hopped over the patio wall down to the lawn. "Ain't you forgetting something, Prince Grogber?" said Granny. Or should I say Grogbog? She lumbered down the patio steps and joined Captain Plank. The prince sneered at them both. "This bristly battle has been fought and won, and now, as is the goblin way, it's time for punishments," Calamitous said. "Yes, I know," Grogber hissed. "That's why I'm taking you all as slaves. Form an orderly queue." "You brain-bungled boggart," Tempesta pointed her sword at the prince. "You lost!" "Has she gone mad?" Grogber laughed. "It's true," said Gladys Potts. "We beat your guards." Reginald Blinklin grinned. "I might have a few for breakfast in the morning," Granny said with a crooked smile. "Oh, yes," Madam Macready said, patting her stomach greedily. "Delicious." "Oof, squish," said Oof. Prince Grogber's face flinched for the tiniest set of seconds. The corner of his eye twitched and he started opening and closing his mouth at rapid pace. I could almost see the cogs whirring inside his brain. Lost? That's right, Clematis said. You and your army of grunty gawpers have lost. Right now, my crew are taking them on board the Blistered Barnacle, where they'll be fed and armed and become salty sea donks. The only plunking left to deal with is you. Please don't kill me, Grogber wailed. I'm too beautiful to die. Clematis laughed. Kill you? He said. We're not going to kill you. You're not? Prince Grogber smiled with relief. Nope. Clematis walked slowly towards the prince. The thief of the diamond dentures has to pay a far more gut-buckling price for this terrible crime. What price? Grogber's bottom lip started to tremble. Oh, it's terrible, Clematis leered, clicking his diamond teeth together. But it's not death. Nope. Phew, at least it's not that, Grogber said. For stealing the diamond dentures, Prince Grogber, your sentence is to spend the rest of your miserable days as Chief of Laundry on board my ship. What? You'll sew and wash and dry and scrub, and after a long time at sea, my crew can get very smelly indeed. Kill me, Grogber howled. Please kill me. Not a chance. With that, Grogber brandished his sword again and started walking slowly backwards. His eyes were the size of dinner plates, and he was mumbling gibberish under his breath. There's nowhere to go, Grogber, Dad said. The Goblin Prince was squelching backward through the flower bed, waggling the sword to and fro. Here, watch me flowers, Mr Crocombe grumbled from the crowd. Stuff your stupid flowers, Grogber spat at him. I'm Prince Grogber, and I always win. He backed further and further away from us, stringing his sword about, until he passed into a shadowy spot with a row of thorny-looking spikes above and below. For a second I couldn't quite make out what I was looking at, but then I realised. Grogber, come back! Never! The prince was walking backwards straight into the open mouth of a snoring, sharp-toothed... Bugunza! Mr Crocombe shouted at his sleeping wife. Mrs Venus! Everyone joined in, but it was too late. Prince Grogber stepped on the back of her tongue and... Gulp! Mrs V clamped her teeth shut, swallowed and smacked her lips sleepily. She slowly raised her enormous head and her stalk neck and shook her tendrils awake. Bleh! I've got a horrible taste in my mouth, she said, yawning. That's when she noticed the gaggle of guests and staff all standing below her, staring up in shock and surprise. Ooh, I must have nodded off. Has the prince arrived yet? Last chapter. Weird is the new normal. Now come on, admit it. You started this book thinking, what a load of old codswallop, and now I bet you'd love to come and stay at the Nothing to See Here hotel. No one really knew what to do after we'd watched Grogber vanish into the thorny jaws of Mrs V, so we all plodded back to the reception hall and waited for someone to come up with an idea. Nancy brought everyone mugs of steaming stag beetle tea, and we scuffed about in the dust and rubble, looking a bit bamboozled. It was Granny who finally broke the silence. Right, that's enough, she barked. Clear off! Well, you weren't expecting her to say something nice, were you? My bunions need their bed, and I'm sick of looking at you all your pukis faces. Right you are, Mrs Glump, Clematis said with a grin. This old scrunt is ready to smell the salty sewer air again anyway. He shouted orders to his crew, and in no time the squaw goblins were boarding their ship and conjuring up another magical wave to wash them back down to the water's edge. I couldn't help but feel sad that the hero of my favourite books was leaving before I'd had time to get to know him. I watched as he clacked across the dusty tiles towards the Blistered Barnacle. Captain Plank took hold of a rope hanging down from the deck above, and just when I thought he was about to climb up and leave, he turned his hollow skeleton eyes on me. Abraham would have been splunkishly proud of you, my boy, he said, then beckoned me with a bony finger. I walked over to the pirate captain with my heart pounding in my ears. A small reward, methinks. Calamitous yanked a single diamond tooth out of his dentures and dropped it into my hand. Keep it safe, he winked. Who knew skulls could do that? You never know when it'll come in handy. With that, he swung up on the deck, and the last thing I saw of the squaw goblins was Tempestra and Calamitous waving from the stern of their ship. And that was that. Mum and Dad set to work with the enchanted mops and brooms, and the Molar sisters made light work of repairing the walls and staircase with their wands. Before I knew it, everyone was plodding off to bed, and it was almost as if Prince Grogber had never visited at all. Don't forget what I told you right back at the start. There's always some kind of mega drama happening at the Nothing to See Here hotel, so that was a pretty average day for most of us. Storms and messengers and ravens and parties and exploding boulders and parades and skinny dipping and plagues of hermit crabs and criminals and diamonds and pirates and heroes and skeletons and curses and battles and fireballs and the odd person getting gobbled up are just the regular stuff for the Bannister family. Here, where weird is the new normal. Still fancy coming to stay? Would you like to go and stay at the Nothing to See Here hotel? I'm going to read some different books in the next few days, but I know that Stephen Butler's written a few more Nothing to See Here hotel books. I might come back to them at some point. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed that book. It took quite a while for us to share together, didn't it? Remember to be good at home, and our school motto, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. Keep on smiling, everyone.